This happened back in 2019. I was 22 and had just moved into a new apartment about 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. It was one of those rush life transitions. New city, new job, no real social circle. Most of my time was spent working, grocery shopping, or watching horror movies alone in my barely furnished studio. I figured it wouldn't hurt to download Tinder, meet some people, maybe find someone to hang out with. Nothing serious. That's when I matched with a girl named Lacey. Her profile was simple: brown hair, cute smile, a few mirror selfies, and a bio that said, "Chill, into horror movies, spontaneous." Pretty much my type. We started chatting, and things clicked surprisingly fast. She was funny, a little sarcastic, but sweet. Within a few days, we were texting regularly, and she suggested a movie night at her place. She lived in a small house just outside of town. Not a complex, not an apartment, an actual house. I asked if she lived alone, and she said yeah. She'd inherited the place from her aunt who passed a couple years ago. It was a Friday night. I got there around 8 p.m., picked up a six-pack on the way. Her house was tucked off a wooded back road, quiet and kind of picturesque, if not a little isolated. She greeted me in sweats and an oversized hoodie, makeup-free, holding a throw blanket and already barefoot. I remember thinking how casual and relaxed the vibe was. She offered me a beer, we made some quick small talk, and she pulled up The Conjuring on Netflix. It felt normal, comfortable, even, but about 30 minutes into the movie, I noticed something strange. She kept glancing past me, toward the hallway behind the couch. Not like she was distracted, more like she was watching for something. At first, I thought maybe she was just on edge because of the movie, but the look in her eyes wasn't scared. It was calculating, like she was waiting. Finally, I asked her, "You good?" She blinked and smiled, like I caught her daydreaming. "Yeah, sorry. I have this creepy old basement door that always makes noise. Kind of freaks me out." I laughed it off like classic old house problems. But now that she mentioned it, I had heard something. Every now and then, this soft, creaking sound. Not constant, but slow, irregular, like a door opening a few inches and stopping. Then silence. Old with settling? I offered. She just shrugged and said, "Yeah, probably." But as the movie went on, I couldn't ignore how much she kept checking that hallway. The creaking happened again. Deliberate. Time. Not wind. Not some haunted pipe. So I half jokingly said, "Want me to go check it out?" She paused. Didn't answer right away. Then finally said, "No, it's fine. Actually, wait. Could you help me move a box down there?" I was going earlier, but forgot. That was the first moment I felt it. Something subtle shift in energy. Still, I didn't want to be rude. I stood up and followed her to the hallway. The door at the end was old, painted over a dozen times, with one of those antique handles that looks like it should be in a farmhouse. She opened it slowly, and the smell hit me, musty, damp like earth and mildew. It was pitch black down there. I instinctively looked for a light switch, but there wasn't one on the wall. "Where's the light?" She handed me her phone. I used the flashlight. Kinda weird, but again, old house. Maybe the wiring sucked. So I started down. The wooden steps creaked under my weight. They felt soft, like they hadn't been reinforced in years. As I reached the bottom, the temperature dropped fast. It was cold. I turned, holding up the phone light. "Where's the box?" I asked. No answer. I looked back up the stairs. She wasn't there. I blinked. "Lacey!" Silence. Then slam. The door shut behind me. Hard. I ran back up and grabbed the handle. It didn't budge. It was locked. I knocked, yelled, kicked the door. "Come on." "Lacey? Hello?" Still nothing. Just silence. No footsteps above me. No movement. Just the sound of my breathing bouncing off the concrete walls. At first, I thought it was some kind of prank. Maybe a weird sense of humor. I banged again, harder this time, enough to hurt my hand. That's when I heard it, not from upstairs. From behind me, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, not rushing. Like someone trying not to be noticed. But failing, I turned, shining the phone's light in the direction of sound. And there he was, a man, squatting in the far corner of the basement, just beyond the range of the flashlight. He wasn't moving. He wasn't talking. Just staring. I can't describe how paralyzed I felt. Not fear, dread. Deep animal dread. Like something inside me screamed, "This is not normal. This is not okay. Run." I screamed, turned, and slammed my shoulder against the door. Again. Finally, the thin would crack near the handle, and I forced it open. The hallway was empty. No sign of Lacey. Her front door was open. My keys were still on the kitchen table. I grabbed them, sprinted to my car, and floored it. I called the cops from the gas station down the road. They searched the house, found the man hiding behind a shelf in the basement. He had a knife. Turns out he was an ex-boyfriend. Lacey had a restraining order against him, but she had let him move back in. According to police reports, she had been luring guys from Tinder to the house, locking them in the basement, and leaving him there with them. Why? They never got a straight answer. When questioned, she claimed he was threatening her, that she was too scared to report him, that she was just doing what he said. But the house had 2 bedrooms, 2 toothbrushes, 2 coffee mugs, 2 coats hanging by the door. No charges were ever filed against her. It felt planned. Hey, if you're enjoying these stories, be sure to hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot and keeps these videos coming. After that night, I deleted Tinder. I didn't tell many people about what happened, not in detail. It felt too weird, too unreal. But the thing that stays with me most, more than the fear, more than the man in the dark, is her face. How calm she looked when she handed me that phone. No nervous energy, no guilt, just normal, like she'd done it before, like it wasn't her first time. If I had hesitated even 5 more seconds down there, if I hadn't turned around when I did, I don't know what would have happened. I think about that more than I'd like to admit. Thanks for listening. If you want more real horror stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got more coming, and trust me, they only get darker from here. This one didn't happen to me, but I was there when it began. It happened to my friend James during our second year of college. We were roommates at the time, both taking classes at a university in upstate New York. It was mid-September, still warm enough to pretend fall wasn't creeping in yet. Like most of us, James had been swiping on Tinder during lectures, and he matched with a girl named Erin. She had that classic cool outdoorsy vibe in her profile. Wavy brown hair, flannel shirts, hiking boots. Her pictures were mostly nature shots, forests, cliffs, waterfalls. She mentioned photography, long drives, and being down for adventure. She and James hit it off pretty quickly. They messaged for about a week, mostly talking about travel and hiking spots. Eventually, they agreed to meet in person for coffee at this local cafe downtown. I had a class near the coffee shop that afternoon, so I offered to drop James off. He was dressed casually, had that slightly nervous smile. "Think she'll be cool?" he asked as we pulled up. I told him he'd be fine. I remember he waved as he walked inside, and I drove off without thinking twice. A couple hours later, I got a text from him. "Date's going well. We're gonna go for a walk at this nature preserve she knows." Sounded harmless. There was a nature preserve just outside of town, about 15 minutes away. I'd been there before. Trails, creeks, some old wooden bridges. I figured they'd take a couple pictures, talk, and head back. Normal stuff. Then at 9:03 p.m., I got another message. "Dude, something's off. Her car has no back seats." I froze. It was such a weirdly specific observation. Not, "she's acting weird," or "I feel uncomfortable." No, her car has no back seats. I immediately texted back. "What do you mean?" No response. I waited a few minutes. Called him. Straight to voicemail. At this point, I was pacing around our apartment. Maybe he had bad service? Maybe it was nothing? Then, 20 minutes later, another message came through. She pulled off into a dirt path. Doesn't seem like a trail. Says she wants to show me something. I felt that drop in my stomach. I replied, "Get out now." No reply. Again, that was the last message I got for nearly an hour. And then at 10:28 p.m., my phone rang. Random number. Local area code. I picked up and it was James. He was out of breath. I could hear cars in the background. Maybe a highway. "I'm at this gas station off Route 12, he said. "Behind the dumpster. Just come get me." I grabbed my keys and drove. When I picked him up, his clothes were torn, his arm was bleeding, and his phone was cracked. He looked shaken, but alert. And the first thing he said when he got in the car, "She wasn't taking me hiking." If you're into true stories like this, hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. And there's plenty more to come. That night, James told me the full story. After coffee, Aaron had suggested they drive out to the nature preserve. He agreed, figuring they'd take some sunset photos and hang out a bit. But as they got closer, she didn't pull into the main parking lot. She kept driving past it. James asked where she was going, and she smiled and said, "There's a better spot I know. Locals don't really use a main trail." Eventually, she turned onto a gravel road. No street signs, no markings, just dense trees on both sides and an occasional deer crossing sign. James didn't want to be rude, so he stayed quiet. Then, out of nowhere, she pulled the car off the gravel and onto a narrow dirt path. It was barely wide enough for the car. Thick brush scraped along the sides. He said it didn't look like a road, more like something a hunter might use once a year. She stopped the car after a few minutes, turned off the engine, and pointed toward the trees. "You should check it out," she said. "It's just through those trees. I'll show you." That's when James noticed it. Really noticed it. The car had no back seats, just a flat area where the seat should have been, covered by a blue tarp. There was a duffel bag tucked in one corner. Something long and rigid stuck out of it, not shaped like a tripod. He asked if there was a bathroom nearby, told her he needed to go. She stared at him for a long second. "There's a stream down there," she said, pointing into the dark woods. "Just don't fall in." He said the tone in her voice was off, like she wasn't joking, but also wasn't being serious. Ambiguous, uncaring. James stepped out of the car, his heart pounding. As soon as he shut the door, he turned and ran. Branches whipped his arms and face. He said he didn't even know where he was going. He just wanted away. Every few seconds, he thought he heard something behind him, crunching leaves, maybe her voice, but he never looked back. Eventually, he found a fence. He climbed it, tearing his arm on the wire, and came out near a gas station. The clerk let him use the store phone after he explained what happened. We called the cops that night. James gave them her name, the make and model of the car, even remembered part of the license plate. They searched the area. They never found the car. Her Tinder account, deleted the next morning, completely wiped. James hasn't used dating apps since. And honestly, I haven't either. Because here's the thing. When you meet someone through a screen, all you know is what they show you. A few pictures, a cute bio, a good conversation. But none of that means you're safe. Sometimes the people who seem the most normal, the most fun, the most charming, are the ones you should fear the most. If you're still listening, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more real horror stories. We've got more coming, and trust me, they only get darker. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if James had gone into those trees, if he hadn't noticed the tarp, if he hadn't made an excuse, if she had a weapon in that bag. Whatever she was planning, it wasn't a hike. The way he described her face, right before he ran. Completely calm, like she wasn't nervous or angry, like she knew she'd done this before, like she was waiting for it to work again. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to like and subscribe if these stories give you chills. And remember, just because someone says they want to show you a secret trail, doesn't mean you should follow. I matched with a girl named Dana during lockdown in 2020. We both lived in LA and bonded over how stir-crazy we were getting. Everyone was feeling isolated, and dating apps had kind of become the new normal. It started with casual messages. Favorite shows, quarantine snacks, Zoom horror stories. Dana seemed funny, grounded, and normal, which is more than you could say for a lot of people back then. She told me she was a graphic designer working from home, liked horror movies, plants, and cooking, had a dry sense of humor. I appreciated. We messaged every night for about 2 weeks, and eventually decided to meet in person, as safely as we could. She invited me over to her place for dinner, said she loved cooking and needed an excuse to make something that didn't come out of a microwave box. I offered to bring wine, and she said she'd make pasta. When I arrived, I was surprised by how nice her apartment was. Small, maybe 500 square feet at most, but cozy, minimal but tastefully decorated. Framed vintage posters, a lot of Hitchcock and Kubrick, warm lighting, and a stack of well-worn books on a coffee table. It looked lived in, but in a good way. She greeted me at the door in sweats and socks, hair pulled up, but still somehow effortlessly attractive. She told me she had a roommate, but that the roommate was almost never home. Works nights, I think. I didn't think much of it. Dinner was great. She made homemade fettuccine with some kind of spicy cream sauce, and it was honestly better than anything I'd had in months. The wine helped, too. Conversation started flowing. We talked about how weird it was trying to get to know someone without actually going anywhere, how time felt warped since the pandemic started, how eerie the city felt without the usual traffic and noise. But then I started noticing little things. Faint creaks coming from the hallway near the bedrooms. The kind of creaks you hear in old apartments, sure, but these felt rhythmic, intentional, not like a pipe settling or a floorboard flexing. Something about them felt deliberate. Every time I glanced toward the hallway, Dana would make a comment. Don't mind the building. It's old and makes weird noises. Or, I think the neighbors upstairs drag furniture around at night. I wanted to believe her. I told myself I was just being jumpy. I mean, it was a weird year. Everyone was on edge. But then something happened that I couldn't explain away. About halfway through the night, I excused myself to use the bathroom. The layout of her apartment was basically a living room and kitchen space in front, and then a short hallway that led to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom in the back. As I walked down the hallway, I passed one of the bedroom doors. It was open just a crack. I probably wouldn't have thought much of it, except something inside caught my eye. There was a camera tripod standing in the middle of the room. No camera on it, just a tripod, and it was aimed directly at the wall. Curious, I paused. The light from the hallway was enough to illuminate what the tripod was facing, and that's when I saw it. The wall was covered in photos, dozens of them, and not printed photos either. These were screenshots, Tinder profiles. They were taped and pinned across the wall in a chaotic grid. Some of the profiles had red excess over them. Others had scribbled notes in Sharpie. Stuff like, too cautious, didn't come inside, talks too much. And then my stomach dropped because I saw my own profile hung. There I was, same profile picture, same dumb bio, and underneath it, written in a different color marker. Finally inside, I didn't go to the bathroom. I slowly backed away from the door, trying to keep my breathing steady. My heart was pounding in my ears. When I returned to the living room, Dana was sitting on the couch, sipping her wine like nothing had happened, smiling. Calm. I forced a smile and told her I had to leave. Early Zoom meeting the next day. She tilted her head slightly. You sure? You should stay a little longer. I made dessert. No, really. I said, try not to sound nervous. Rain check. She didn't respond. Just stood up and walked over to the front door. Then she locked it. Click. I paused. Why did you lock the door? I asked, trying to sound casual. She turned and gave me that same calm smile. Just wanted to make sure you didn't leave before dessert. I stared at her. My hands were sweating. My legs felt heavy. Unlock it, I said. She hesitated. Her smile twitched. Now. After a few seconds, she reached for the deadbolt and turned it. I stepped outside, trying not to sprint. Didn't say another word. I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove. Didn't look back. The next morning, I reported her profile to Tinder. Described everything. The photos, the wall, the notes, the locked door. A week later, her profile was gone. I never heard from her again. If you're still with me, hit that like button and subscribe. These stories are real, and they're just getting started. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't noticed that wall. If I had just gone to the bathroom like normal. If I had stayed for dessert. What were the excess for? What did the notes mean? Was she cataloging people? Were the ones crossed out people who had gotten away? Or something worse? And the tripod or the camera? Sometimes I think maybe she wasn't working alone. Maybe the roommate she mentioned wasn't a roommate at all. Maybe they were helping her. Or maybe they were just another name on the wall. I've thought about calling the police again, about following up, but what would I even say? Hi, I went on a date with a girl who had a creepy wall of dating profiles. Can you investigate that? They'd probably laugh me off the phone. Maybe they did look into it after I reported her. Maybe that's why her profile vanished. Or maybe she just moved on, made a new account, found someone else. Either way, I don't use dating apps anymore. And if you do, be careful. Not everyone is who they claim to be. Some people aren't looking for love. They're looking for something else entirely. Thanks for watching. If you like the story, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who still uses Tinder just to be safe. Stay safe out there.